in this week's Parshas Vayera. On the pasuk, Vayera Elav Hashem be'eloi ne'mamrei u'yoshev shar u'yoshev pesach ha'oyer, and it says Vayisa Enov Vayar. It says twice Vayar, and he saw. It says the Medrash, what are these two things he saw? It says the Medrash, Im roya ani sheshchino mamtenes aleihem yedei ani shehin bnei adam gedolim. He saw the Shechina preparing to come to be mevakeh choleim, and he also saw the three Arabs, the three Arabs coming towards him. So he said, if the Shechina waits, if the Rebbeinu Shalom waits, then I know that these people are great people. And v'mani roya oisam cholkim kovod elu le'elu ani yodea shehem bnei adam mehugonim. If I know they're great people is if I see the Rebbeinu Shalom waiting for them. Then they can go in pelts, the tzaddikim. How do I know they're good people? Is that they're able to be mechabed one another. Chaim Shmulevitz says, he says, Mekenzan agirse tzaddik. The Shechina vart of dir. That doesn't mean you're an Adam Hagum. That doesn't mean you're a good person. That doesn't mean you're a person who knows how to treat and respect his fellow. My grandmother used to say, they sell felt to, what's that called? Velvet. Summit, verkauft man zu jeder. Everybody can put it on. Right? A person can be a gerse tzaddik. Medrash. Vayar, he said the first thing, he said I need to see if the Shechina is going to wait for them, then I know that they're big people. The second time it says Vayar, I need to see if they're good people. Hashem oiz la'amo yitein Hashem yivorech es amo v'sholem lo yimatzasi kli la'harchzik brocha ela hasholem. The only thing that the Rebbeinu Shalom found, the vessel which can contain bracha, is shalom. In this week we have two instances of how far shalom has to go. And shalom, mark my words, does not mean I come into Bismillah and say, Ilya, how you doing? It's great to see you. The Heilige Rishna says, geben a clap of the Ricken von dein Chava, das ist nicht Freundschaft. If you give a smack on your friend's back and say, hi pal, what's up? So that's not friendship. If the Yid in America who has a Tzar Nebuch, that hurts you, that's Ahavas Yisrael. Smiling and saying flattering things and being on always everyone's good books, that's a sign that you're trying to boost your PR and you be popular. That's not a sign that you're an Adam Hagun. That's not a sign that you're Ahavas Yisrael. In fact, everything you do for Yenim can be for yourself. Where it should really be, everything you do for yourself should also be for Yenim, right? That's the goal. In this week we see two major points, which shows us how weit, how far we need to take Shalom seriously. Actually, everything that happens in Klal Yisrael, since the Eden went out as a group of people together, saved by the bell? Literally. Saved by the bell. Was from Korach up until now, we Jewish people thrive on machlokes. Absolutely. There's only action where there's machlokes. I mean, it would be so boring. Imagine Vienna without it. Where would we be? I mean, seriously. But still, the only kli machzik bracha that Rebbeinu Shalom found is the absolute opposite of that, and that's shalom. When there's shalom, it brings happiness, harmony, togetherness, friendship, true friendship. We're able to live together. Gewaldig. Imagine you see people walking into Besmedrash, each one's happy to see the other person. Wouldn't that be a gewaldige Zach? A dream. Says the Pasuk. We know last week Parsha we said, Avraham Avinu, he went to Mitzrayim, Avimelech took his wife. Right? And beforehand, he decided he's going to hide her in a box. Why? Not because of Brexit, because that was Egypt, and he was trying to hide on taxes. That would have been a good reason. But he says, wow, now I finally realized at the young age of 76 that you're beautiful. It means he was a tzanua. They were extremely modest, Avraham and Sarah. Until the point he was 86 and she was 76. Now I can see you're beautiful, I need to hide you. Avraham Avinu. That's not like Malachim. Chaim Shmulevitz says the Malachim, they came to this world and they fell for the Benois Ha'aretz, as is written in Parshas Bereshis. Avraham Avinu could be with his wife, and when she's 76, he says, now I can tell you beautiful. Now that's a madrega. So this very Avraham Avinu, he sees 3 Arabs, he takes them into his home, opens up, and the doors were already open, he brings them in, washes their feet, sits them down, and they say to him, Aye Sarah Ishtecha, where's your wife? First of all, mind your own business. Like, why do you want to know where my wife is? But they didn't ask him to, because they knew where his wife was. Why did they know? Because they were malachim. So what's this whole spiel about? Why are you asking me where my wife is? So Rashi says, Kidei lechavav al baila, because he wanted to make Sarah more beloved. At the age of 89 and 99, we're going to spark some romance over here. Oh, she's a tzanua. Gevaldik. The malachim, I assume they didn't speak random words. And they wanted to be mechavev Sarah al baila. They wanted to bring them a little bit closer. Hashem himself does it a few psukim later. Sarah says, Mi'ol mate, he's an old guy. 99 and he's old. Kodesh Baruch Hu says to Avraham, yeah. And she said about herself, Anizo Kanti, she's old. Kodesh Baruch Hu, excuse me, we thought this is Kotsk. MS 101, right? What do you mean by Anizo Kanti? You're changing the story. Zog the Gemara, zog the Chazal. Because of MS Shalom, you're allowed to change the story. Shalom, at 99, he's going to get offended if his 89-year-old wife calls him old. Seriously, come on. But Hashem saw that even the slightest... Would you like to share your experiences? The Pasuk says. The Pasuk says. The slightest little bit of negative emotion, which perhaps is hidden from us entirely and the person himself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Shalom is so important that I'm going to change it over here. There's a very, very famous story about 2 friends. Take a seat, my friend. And they were very close friends, true friends. They had each other's backs. And the story goes that one of them came to a town and he was accused of a crime which was punishable by death. And he asked permission to go say farewell to his family. And they said to him, but you say farewell to your family, how do you know you're coming back? So his friend who was with him said, I'm taking his place. And they said, but you know if he doesn't come back, then we're killing you instead. And he said, I'm prepared. And the day of the penalty arrived, the day of the death execution arrives, and his friend isn't here. And they're all laughing at him and saying, look at that. He's done a runner. He's gone. He's left you. You're going to hang. And he says, I'm happy to do so for my friend. He has already the noose around his neck. That's the rope which the guy in black pulls and lets the trapdoor open and you float in the air. And suddenly they hear screaming or commotion. His friend has arrived. And he says, okay, so hang me because I'm the real person that you need to execute. And his friend says, no, what are you talking about? When you have the noose around my neck. And they start arguing who's getting killed. And it makes a whole commotion. They've never seen anything like this. Until the word reaches the king. And the king comes and he sees that these people are really arguing. Each one says, no, I want to be killed. My friend should be let go. And the king says, I let you go on one condition. You make me a third part of this friendship. And obviously the mashal is that the king is the Rabbi Shalom. And Rabbi Shalom says, where there's 2 friends so true to each other, then Rabbi Shalom says, I want to be the third part. Another interesting thing, if we look at it close up, was by Yaakov Avinu. He had 2 wives at the beginning. He expanded afterwards. Rachel and Leah. The pasuk says about Rachel and Leah, "Vayehav gam es Rachel mi Leah." He loved Rachel also more than Leah. Did he love Leah? Absolutely. It says in the pasuk. Vayehav. The word Vayehav means to love. Mi Rachel more than mi Leah more than Leah means he loved Leah. Just Rachel a little bit more. What's the next pasuk? The next pasuk says, "Vayar Hashem ki sanu Leah." Leah was the hated one, and the Mefarshim ask, "What do you mean Leah was the hated one?" The pasuk just said, "Vayar vayehav gam es Rachel mi Leah." He loved Leah. What's Hashem calling Leah? The sanua. The Orach Chaim HaKodesh says on that pasuk that it says, "Vayar Hashem ki sanua Leah." Leah herself did not know that Yaakov had a difference in his heart between Rachel and Leah. In fact, Rabbi Chaim Shmulevitz wants to say that perhaps even Yaakov Avinu couldn't notice the difference between Rachel and Leah. We're talking about Yaakov HaTzadik. How can we say that he should treat one of his 2 wives differently? And that to the degree they should say Sanua, says Recham, no. The Sanua was relative to the Ahava of Rachel. Leah was slightly less. And that's why it's Vayar Hashem. Because only Hashem was able to understand this and to see the emotions of Yaakov's heart and to realize that Rachel was that little bit more than Leah. Until he calls Leah a Sanua. And in itself that's a Teviyah. He's calling out on Yaakov. Yaakov, I expected more from you. And this one, the next marshal just talks to me. My mother's name is the same name as Yaakov Avinu's more beloved wife, and her son, guess what? He was also called Yosef. So you have a Yosef as Rachel over here. Why did she call him Yosef? Osaf Hashem es cherposi. Because Hashem gathered in my embarrassment, my cherpa. So Rashi brings down a chazal that says, until a child is born, if a plate smashes, who gets blamed? The wife. If something goes wrong in the house, who gets blamed, Chaimi?
The husband.
The wife.
What?
Now that the children are born, she could say it was the kid. That's why she called him Yosef. I'm the guy they blame, by the way. That's why he was called Yosef. Osaf Hashem es cherposi. Really? Do you think Yaakov Avinu got angry? I mean, we use paper plates for that reason, right? But do you think Yaakov Avinu got angry if Hennes, the Hungarian china, fell down and smashed? Seriously. Is that Yaakov Avinu? Our granddad Yaakov? When you should see what happened when the Lachaim glass smashed. He went bonkers. Rachel said, I'm glad my son was born, because now Yaakov's going to blame the kid. Or I can shift the blame to him. Rachel understood. Yaakov might not say anything. He might not even feel anything. But in the deepest, now we're going to Kalbach levels, in the deepest depths of all the emotions of a person, there's something there. And Rachel said, now that I have a son, and he's called Yassi, things at home are just going to get better. Right?
That's what your wife thought also.
What? Her name is Sarah, not Rachel, but anyways. The Chavetz Chaim has a very small sefer called the Ahavas Yisrael. And he actually doesn't talk much about the Ahavas Yisrael. He talks about Sinus Chinam. But I think his point is that eventually we should reach Ahavas Yisrael. And the main thing is Ahavas Yisrael comes from Kinah. We get jealous. See a guy with a cool yeshiva shahad, those big sombreros they used to sell? Well, tough times, now they sell like only ones with really teeny ones. Right? And he's jealous. He has a cooler hat than me. He has a cooler this. He has a better head. He has a fancier that. He's more talented than this. People get jealous for different reasons. He has more than me. He has better than me. A little bit of emunah, and that kinna goes away. We all get exactly what we're supposed to get. No amount of jealousy is ever going to get it back to you or to you, because that's his lot, that's your lot. You either accept it or you don't. But if you want to know, says the Chavetz Chaim, how to get rid of sinas chinam, don't be jealous. Now, most people don't realize it, but everybody walks around with a little knapsack. And if you study the contents of that knapsack, you'll be much happier with your knapsack. Because everyone can deal with their own issues. So it looks all rosy by Yenim. I have no idea. And this is a lifelong's work. Ezu mechubed, a mechabed es. I don't think it means, my shliga once asked me for kuvod. So I brought an entire plate of liver. Right? Liver in Hebrew is kaved. Kuvod. I said, you have covered the whole plate of it.
Not COVID.
Not COVID. No, she got that by herself.
COVID. Yeah, COVID.
Yeah?
Hey.
But what? A mechabed es abriyas, what does it mean? You strip him over the Mizrach?
Okay, how can COVID?
You bow down to him? What do you mean respect? Who can tell if you respect the person? It's in your heart.
You have to know yourself.
You have to know yourself. Most people fool themselves. Ezu mechubed, the real mechubed by the Eibishter, not by us ourselves. Mechubed by does Rabbeinu Shalom respect? Somebody who's really mechabed es abriyos. Somebody who is really mechabed other people. Somebody who has enough emunah to realize he didn't take away from me, he can't. Even if he wants to. And if he does something bad to me, then he's the unfortunate shliach that had to carry out the shlichus. It's a thin sefer from the Chavetz Chaim. Yeah? Very interesting sefer. We see and learn from these parashas, Ma'aseh Avos and Siman Nebanim, the length that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Malachim, and our Avohis and Imois went to gain that little bit more of Shalom, to gain that little bit more of Ahava, to gain that little bit more of Achdus. We have to try, obviously, as much as we can to work on ourselves until we reach a state of friendship that the Rebbeinu Shalom says to us, I'd like to be the third one. Shkoyach and a good Shabbos.
Beautiful.